We start this evening with trade and the economy. As President Trump says, leaders of several countries have contacted him to discuss new trade deals. Manila Chan is following the story and joins us with more. Manila.
Hey there. Good evening, Scotty. So the economy is on everybody's lips today as the White House trotted out the head of the Economic Council during the daily press briefing to talk some numbers today. Now, the trade spat between China and the U.S. continues to grow as neither side are backing down. Earlier today, Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesman Geng Shuang minced no words in the impending tariffs due to take effect in just the coming days.
If the U.S. insists on imposing another round of tariffs on Chinese products, China will definitely take countermeasures to safeguard its legitimate rights and interests.
That's in response to President Trump's comments aboard Air Force One before the weekend, where he told press that the administration had tariffs planned for an additional $267 billion worth of Chinese goods. Some of those goods include American goods produced in China, such as many Apple products. The president tweeting this ahead of the weekend. He said, quote, "Apple prices may increase because of the massive tariffs we may be imposing on China, but there is an easy solution where there would be zero tax and indeed a tax incentive. Make your products in the United States instead of China. Start building new plants now." Exciting. And the pains for Apple can go in both directions for their markets, both domestically as well as their massive market in China. The tariffs would hike Apple prices to crippling levels, a not so subtle nudge to get the tech giant to bring production stateside. Now, also on Air Force One, Trump said that the Japanese have begun trade talks with his administration. We know he's had a very friendly relationship with Shinzo Abe, the Japanese PM. But this weekend, he cited that if the U.S. and Japan didn't arrive at a new agreement, it would, quote, be a big problem due to the trade imbalance in Japan's favor. Now, the president went on to say that India has reached out to him as well. He's had a tough stance on India and China, both seeking to stop subsidies to emerging economies, even having accused India of imposing 100% tariffs on American products. So, Scotty, the president, although sitting on some of the best jobs numbers in 5 decades, still appears to be eyeing the same type of double-digit economic growth he's been seeing in places like China and India. He thinks towing the line near perhaps a trade war might actually drive the U.S. to those sorts of double-digit growth. So we'll see.
For more, we're joined by former CFTC Commissioner and host of Boom Bust here on RT, Bart Chilton. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure.
You're wonderful. Well, Bart, Prime Minister Abe seems to have decided to bet on making the best of his relationship with President Trump. But now President Trump has called a Wall Street journalist, James Freeman, and said the U.S.-Japan relations are good, but I'm quoting this, "Of course I will end as soon as I tell him how much they have to pay." Some might say that Prime Minister Abe looks foolish now after being publicly undercut in that way. But doesn't Mr. Abe just have to deal with the partner he has, not the one he might wish he has?
Well, the president over there is in a precarious position. Shinzo Abe has it's really a leadership contest coming up before the 20th of this month. And so he wants to stay in power. The Japanese constitution was actually changed in order to allow him to be president for a third term. So he's got some politics back at home that he's dealing with. Meanwhile, the exports from Japan to the U.S. have actually slowed, and U.S. exports to Japan have actually increased in the last quarter. So that's, I guess, good news if you're just looking at it from a U.S. perspective.
Well, that's winning right there on that. But now I'm also thinking of you mentioned the North, but I'm thinking of the contrasting example where Prime Minister Trudeau has refused to bend the knee, if you will, on trade, but now maybe out of the NAFTA negotiations, renegotiations altogether. Is that the point to make here? Examples of defiant partners, even allies, to keep others in line?
Well, it may be. I quite frankly, and I think I may have said this to you before, that I don't really understand the strategy. Now I hope that it works out, and he's our commander-in-chief, and I want to be supportive, and we want more manufacturing jobs. I just don't know what it is, other than a better deal. I mean, it's sort of platitudes about what we might get. Look, you know, Japan does export a lot of cars. They are the third largest economy. It's important for us to do trade with them, but we've got to have something reasonable. They're an ally. We want to work with them. And so over the long term, we've got to keep, I think, an amicable relationship with the Japanese folks. Otherwise, we're in big trouble, particularly in Asia. We've got folks there that we're competing with. China, for example. We've got a really unsettled Korean peninsula with North Korea and South Korea. I mean, the reports over the last few days were that the president was going to pull out of the South Korean trade deal. You want to keep your allies close to you, particularly in troubled times. So we'll have to see where it goes from here, but my view is that we need to keep them as an ally. Sure, we can go try to renegotiate, but let's keep in mind how important Japan is in and of itself.
Absolutely. Now, so going forward on this, President Trump says negotiations on restructuring trade between the U.S. and Japan are underway. Should every U.S. ally and trading partner have an opening for trade talks in their back pocket already ready if and when President Trump decides it's their turn to be in the hot seat?
Oh, it's probably a smart negotiating strategy, Scotty, and I guess I would do that if I were them. But you never know. I mean, it's quite frankly, it seems to me really an unpredictable administration. We know they're going after China and Japan and Mexico and Canada and the EU, but who's to say where the next, tweet's going to come from? And I think until the policy people really start talking with our foreign counterparts, you never know if it's a reality or if it's just sort of rude rhetoric.
Well, President Trump might have wrote Art of the Deal, but you definitely are the boom buster here on RT. Thanks for joining us. You can catch the show with Bart Chilton.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe to never stop questioning more.